know how does this Vedantas describe these different yugas as this last one, Kali Yuga, is now about to end. So how do they see this coming age next Kali Yuga? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's a good question. This question is about the ages, the cycle of ages, which are known as yugas. So here in Europe, in the Western world, we commonly divide the year into 4 seasons. So this is a good reference point to understand these yugas. Years go by and these 4 seasons change. Spring, summer, winter, fall, and they keep cycling. So in the same way, there are 4 great ages. And it starts with the Satya or Krita Yuga, it's called. And that is a very glorious period. Now we would call it very ancient history, but it will come again in the future. And at that time, mankind is naturally very, very spiritual and lives very, very simply in total harmony with nature, has no need for cities. And there is a communion between human beings and the beings on higher planets, which are known as devas. They're superhuman. And so there's a free commerce between Earth and other planets. And these beings from other planets visit, and human beings can even go to their planets and visit. And human beings are naturally yogis. They're naturally very self-controlled, very pure, and enlightened. And the lifespan at that time is very long, unimaginably long. 100,000 years. Human being lives for 100,000 years. So you can, in the Bible, the oldest texts of the Bible, they refer to persons who lived for 1,000 years. Now the Bible, the biblical text, can be traced back to about 4,000 years ago. I think that's the commonly accepted age of the Bible. The texts were started to be written about 4,000 years ago. So then 4,000 years ago, people living to be 1,000 years was a sort of rare thing. They mentioned this one person, Methuselah, who lived for 1,000 years, and a few others who lived like for 900 years, 800 years. So it's interesting that 5,000 years ago, the yugas changed from the previous yuga, Dwapara Yuga, to Treta Yuga. So Dwapara Yuga, people lived for 1,000 years, normally. And even in the Bible, when you go way back, they're talking about people who lived for 1,000 years. And then they started living less. And now in this age, people live maximum about 100 years. So in the previous age, Dwapara Yuga, people lived ordinarily for 1,000 years. In the year before that, Treta Yuga, they lived for 10,000 years. And in the first age, Satya Yuga, for 100,000 years. So anyway, now we're in Kali Yuga, which is in one sense the worst of the 4 ages. It's like the winter age, if we speak of 4 seasons. People live very short. Kali, the word Kali means quarrel or fighting. So this is an age of constant hot and cold war between people. A lot of criminality and all these things that we all know about now going on. The human society is very disturbed. And all the traditional religious systems, they break down. People are generally very materialistic. And their culture is very, empty of meaning. Life is just meant for enjoying the senses, and that's all. So in this sense, it's a very low time, very unfortunate time. But in another sense, you see, the Vedas say that in the Kali Yuga, the process of spiritual progress, spiritual advancement is made very, very easy. And we're coming back to this point of mantra, chanting mantras. This is all one needs to do. For example, we're going to, in just a few minutes, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is given in the Vedic texts, the Upanishads. And it says this is all, in this age, if you can just chant the mantra, the Maha Mantra, and you know, absorb your consciousness in this sound vibration, then that alone can bring you to this moksha, to this liberation. Whereas in previous ages where people were, you know, they were in a sense more pure, more strong, and more capable, so the dharmas, the religion, the religious or yoga practice was consequently much more complicated and difficult. You see, in this I told you about the Satyuga where people lived for 100,000 years. So in that age, the method of spiritual enlightenment was dhyana yoga or mystic meditational yoga, and they used to have to sit in trance. Just sit down in a yoga posture and meditate, suspend all the functions of the body, focus the mind completely so there are not even thoughts passing in the mind, and sit like that. And, you know, not for 15 minutes, not just for one day, not just for 1 week, but for years and years and years. They live such a long time, so we're talking about meditation sessions that would last for hundreds or even thousands of years. They practically would go into suspended animation. You see, we read about this in those days. The yogis would sit in caves and they wouldn't move for ages. And they'd just be absorbed in trance. So that's very, very difficult. We can't conceive of doing such a thing now. So this is, in one sense, a very, yes, the worst age, Kali Yuga, but in another sense, for attaining the spiritual goal, it's the best age because it's when spiritual life is made easy for everyone. I don't know, how much time is there left? I don't know when this...
Yeah, it's... well, we have... Yeah. If there's one question, I think maybe we have...
One more question?
If there is...
Yes?
When you talk about the subconscious ascending, does that mean that the subconscious is in theory in Muladhara?
Oh, yes. Subconscious is, as I said, it's the root of the mind. I drew here 2 circles around the Atma. Sthula Shirira, gross body, Linga Shirira is mental body. But the mental body, there could be a 3rd circle, kind of like the root or the basis of both of these. And this is called the Karana Deha. Deha means body, Karana means causal. So this is the causal body. It's the root of the mental body and the physical body. And I told you, oops, I got lost. I told you about how in our deep memory, all the impressions of our life are stored. So that's all in here. All of the karmas are stored in this Karana Deha. So your question is about Mula Prakriti. So this is interesting. This brings in microcosm and macrocosm. Because what I'm presenting here is in terms of our microcosm, our existence as human beings. But there's a relationship between everything that we're experiencing and the greater universe. Because the greater universe is also, interestingly, a person too. The Mahapurush, the great cosmic person, which is a kind of a shadow form of the Paramatma. Paramatma is purely spiritual, but he casts a shadow within the material dimension, which is known as the Mahapurush, which is the ultimate form of the universe. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 11th chapter, Krishna shows this universal form. This is a famous chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So he's showing the whole universe within himself, and that's this Mahapurush. So your question is about Mula Prakriti, which means root nature. And that's on this macrocosmic level. But it is equivalent. It is equivalent. Just like all of our life processes are rooted in this causal, yes, root of this of material existence, root of our material identity. So the word root in Sanskrit is mula. Mula means root. And prakriti means nature. So there is the greater nature of the universe, but you and I, we also have our nature. So this is macrocosm, microcosm. So mula prakriti, yeah, there's an equivalence, but that is properly applied to the universe, the greater sphere of things. And within our local microcosmic universe, our own self, we have this karanadeha, this subconscious causal body. All right then, so our director here has said that's the last question. So we just want to conclude with another kirtan. Anyway, I'll let you talk.
Eli me soitetaan teille hetken aikaa Hare Krishna mantra ja sen jälkeen on sitten kasvisherkkuja tuolla kahviossa, joka on ihan, tiedätte, ihan käytävä toisessa ja siinä voi tehdä lisää kysymyksiä. Tuossa on myös sitten, mentäisiin sinne, jos te haluatte ostaa jotain